This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman and Riley Smith. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Good day and welcome to today's edition of Ag Matters PM. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Monday, May 9th, 2022. We're so glad you can join us. In today's show, Dustin brings us coverage from the opening day of the downtown Des Moines Farmers Market, and I talk with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Glisan about what we can expect from the weather for planting season. Of course, as always, we'll also have a rundown of the ag weather outlook, but first, let's go ahead and take a look at the closing markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Well, we're here at the close for the markets today, and we're going to go ahead and go over how the markets went throughout the day. And for that, we talked to Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, how are we doing today?
Well, we're doing fine, and thank you for having me on the show.
All right, so let's go ahead and run down those first off with the grain markets.
All right, we had pressure on all the markets. The least amount of pressure I would probably say is on wheat, just because of initially overnight we were higher and then we saw some pressure, but pressure on all the markets. Probably the biggest thing is planting progress. We are seeing an opening window here, and field work is being done, planters are rolling. And that's probably the bigger thing after the anticipation that we were seeing delays and maybe seeing things going a little later and later. And now that has turned around fairly quickly. In some areas, obviously up into Dakotas and stuff, it's not at this point in time. But things can change fairly quickly. We know that we can plant a lot in a short period of time. Export inspections also were lower than last week. So it probably didn't have a lot of impact on the market, but I would probably look at, corn being down mainly double digits, beans down, into 30s, 25, 30 cents. Just a lot of the pressure on planting progress being done, and probably some spillover from the stock market as well. Stock market's really been taking a hit last week and so far today. The outside market's having a pressure. Crude oil being down over $6 a barrel. That always has an impact on soybeans in general. So it's kind of that disappointment, I guess, from the trade, and they're looking at the least path of least resistance was lower. Now we are continuing a heat wave in India, which is going to trim some of their crops. Cifras and Mercado in Brazil, they reduced the Brazilian soybean crop by 122.3 million tons. That was down from their previous estimate. And Ukraine is planting some crops. Although they're looking at less crops being planted, they are planting crops where they can, and they are getting some exports out through different channels.
Right, and of course, we've gotten that a bit of a lucky break with the weather, that it turned out to where we can start getting planting going, and it's not too late yet. Of course, with the prices down, is that seeing kind of that panic price come down a little bit?
Yes, I think there's maybe some panic selling. There's traders in general. A bull market has to continue to be fed, and when it doesn't get fed like they think it should, there's naturally some profit taking, some liquidation that takes place. I don't think that the whole concern of the year certainly isn't done, and the crop's not in the bin. There's going to be a lot of volatility this year. Traders will probably be trading by the book. I use the term that if there's an inch of rain predicted and we get 9/10, the market will go up. If an inch of rain is predicted and we get an inch and a tenth, the market will go down.
Right, and let's go ahead and move on over to the livestock side of the markets today as well.
Okay, there was no free lunch in the livestock markets today, although in the live cattle we did see the closer months keep their head above water, show some green. Later months down further. Feeder cattle on front month came up as well, but down farther on the others. Even though we had lower grain prices, It really did not get anything going underneath. The cutouts, or I should say box beef in the livestock sector is a little suspect right now. We should be seeing strength in cutouts. I'm sorry, that's for hogs, in box beef at this time of the year, but we're not really seeing that strength. And there's that anticipation that more cattle are going to be available in this May timeframe, May to June. That was anticipated for a while. Packers have cattle already contracted for a couple of weeks out, so they don't have to be quite as aggressive in this market. They weren't last week, but yet cash held at a steady price. This week, little suspect. We may have a hard time keeping cash up at a steady price. We may see something a little bit weaker, and that's what's also keeping some pressure on that market. Now, closer month live cattle probably closed a little bit higher. They're battling with the idea of such a discount to the cash, and the traders just had to bring it up. On the hog sector, I mean, that went down to new lows for this move. We did see the lower cash that has been developing, lower cutouts. Today we had kind of a stability there. If you say cash at midday was up 18 cents, cutouts at midday were down 16, but that changes a lot by the end of trading. We left a chart gap this morning, which needs to be filled on the upside, but boy, it just seems to be such a caution by traders to step into this market at this point in time. The African swine flu that was discovered in Rome, that was in a wild boar. I don't know if that's going to have that much of an impact other than the knee-jerk reaction that we saw on Friday and maybe some carryover to today. But we just need to find stability in those cutouts underneath in order to really get the traders excited about this market.
All right, Robin, lots of great information today, as always. For those producers who would like to learn more, how can they get a hold of agmarket.net?
Okay, they can call me directly at 877-256-3253 or go to agmarket.net, and the phone number's on there. Contact information is on there. So that's the best way to reach us.
All right. Well, Robin, great to talk to you today, and we hope to hear from you again soon.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
And that, again, was Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. We'll go ahead and take a look at how those numbers close. That's courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. July corn is down 12 3/4 at 7.72 even. December corn down 10 even at 7.10 3/4. July soybeans down 36 3/4 at 15.85 1/4. November soybeans down 24 even at 14.46 3/4. Soybean meal down 10.80 at 402.80. Soybean oil down $1.16 at 79.74. Chicago wheat down 15 3/4 at 10.92 3/4. Minneapolis spring wheat up 1 1/2 at 12.10 1/4. Kansas City hard red wheat down 6 1/4 at 11.64 1/4. And July oats down 12 even at 6.15 1/2. On the Merc, live cattle up 2 cents at 135.37. Feeder cattle up 25 cents at 159.80. May lean hogs down $1.32 at 187 cents. Pork cutout down $2.35 at 108.30. And Class 3 milk down 67 cents at 23.79. And that was our ag market recap. We'll go ahead and take a break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, Dustin will have coverage from the opening day for the downtown Des Moines Farmers Market. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AM PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Well, the weather has finally warmed up, and while you can argue whether it's spring or summer, it does mean it's time for the farmers markets to get up and running. The downtown Des Moines Farmers Market had its opening ceremony this past Saturday. Dustin was there to talk about what they expect for this season.
3, 2, 1, ring it! And that was the sound of the kickoff to the 2022 season at the downtown Des Moines Farmers Market this past Saturday. Des Moines, of course, one of many farmers markets that you can visit throughout the state of Iowa, but it's also one of the best known ones across the state. Vendors and customers were out in the beautiful early morning hours of Saturday as people were shopping for some of the best produce, some meats, also some food products, and all sorts of things that you can find at the Des Moines Farmers Market. And we caught up with Amelia Klott. She's one of the people that works so hard to bring this event to the Des Moines area every Saturday during the season. And she talks about the meaning of having this keep going into its 47th year.
We're really excited to welcome all of the vendors back. We also have entertainers and Saturday salutes, which are nonprofits that come to the market. But most importantly, excited to have most of our vendors back that we had pre-pandemic.
Just like many other farmers markets around the state and around the country, the Des Moines Downtown Farmers Market is proud to support local growers, local producers, manufacturers, and even entertainers every Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's really important for the farmers market to be on Court Avenue so people can come shop local to our vendors and shop for all of our Iowa vendors. We're really excited to have all of them back on Court Avenue this year, and couldn't ask, like you said, for a better morning to kick it off.
Of course, putting on an event this big every weekend is more than just a matter of vendors showing up and putting up their tents and blocking off the street. Klott goes on to talk about what it takes to put this event on every single Saturday in a very busy section of Des Moines.
We arrived bright and early. Seems like the bar had just closed and they're cleaning the streets up, and we're here to set up the tents. A lot of our vendors are coming from far away, so they get here probably around 5 o'clock and start setting up the tents, and from there we're all set up and ready to go by 7 a.m.
Amelia also talks about the fact that if they're closing down a street like Court Avenue for an event like this every Saturday, it has to be something that is worthwhile to the businesses that line Court Avenue that are shut down from the street traffic to get people to come in their doors as well.
It's really important for Des Moines. It really brings the community together. It creates a vibrant downtown and allows for people to not only come and visit us at the market, but then enjoy the other businesses that are in the East Village area, the historic Court District, and all the way down to Western Gateway Park. So we love to get people to come downtown for the farmers market and then stay downtown for the rest of the day and enjoy the other activities that there are to offer.
Amelia says that every weekend we'll have something new for patrons to enjoy, so you need to come out and check it out because there's always going to be something different.
Throughout the weeks, we have our Unity Point Health Des Moines as our presenting sponsor here at the farmers market. They have different groups of people that will be at their booth each week with different activities. We also have different sponsors and nonprofits that will be scattered throughout the market, and they are also providing different activities for our guests, as well as entertainers on every single block. Those rotate every single week and allow for different varieties of music for people to.
You can learn more about what happens at the downtown Des Moines Farmers Market by finding them on Facebook or searching dsmpartnership.com. Of course, this is not the only farmers market that goes on during the year in Iowa, but we are going to be kicking off a season of features from the farmers market here on Ag Matters PM. We wish all the producers and manufacturers of the Iowa Farmers Market's goods to have a good, prosperous 2022, and we invite all of our listeners and watchers to visit your local farmers market. For Ag Matters PM in downtown Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman.
Thanks, Dustin. Now let's go ahead and check out that ag weather outlook. It's downright tropical across the state today, with some areas seeing temps in the upper 90s. Hopefully, these warm temps and the drier bias will allow farmers to get their crops in before the yield window closes. Dustin has a look at what the National Weather Service has in store for the next 24 hours.
Well, we're definitely kicking off a week of some hot weather across the state with some chances of thunderstorms off and on throughout the week. Today, we did see variably cloudy skies across the state. It was breezy and much warmer as we saw highs from the low 80s to the low 90s. Now tonight, it's going to remain windy with a slight chance of thunderstorms across most of the state with the exception of the southwest corner. Lows will be in the mid-50s to the low 70s. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies return with some chances of thunderstorms in the central and eastern parts of the state, but highs ranging from the upper 70s to the upper 80s near 90. Taking a look at the affiliate weather map for tomorrow, Cherokee expects sunny skies and 79. Shenandoah will have sunny skies and a high around 87. Des Moines will have partly sunny skies and a slight chance of storms and 87. Waterloo the same with a high of 83. Albia also partly sunny with a chance of thunderstorms and 88. Clinton partly sunny, chance of thunderstorms and a high of 89.
For more detailed forecasts in your part of the state, check with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook. When we come back, I talk to Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan about this year's planting weather preview. This is Ag Matters PM. As we approach planting season, make sure you stay safe and share the road with your local farmers. Slow-moving tractors with large planters occupy a lot of space on the road, so stay patient and follow at a distance of around 50 feet. You should never, ever try to pass them at a bridge, intersection, hill, or curve. It's far better than putting yourself or someone else at risk. So please, stay safe and remember to tip your hat to your local farmer this planting season. This message was brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Welcome back to AM/PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. We all know that the weather is the single most important factor in a successful crop, but it's also the most unpredictable. That's been particularly true as of late, since it was seeming like Mother Nature just couldn't make up her mind. However, it looks like she finally decided what season it is, and apparently she wanted to skip spring and go straight to summer. I sat down with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan and talked about what farmers can expect from the weather for planting season and beyond. Well, we're talking with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan. Justin, first off, great to talk to you today.
Thanks for having me, Riley. Always nice to talk with your group there.
All right, so recently we've been seeing some widespread rains across the state. And first off, let's just go over a bit of how the drought monitor is looking for the state and how that'll look for planting season.
Yeah, we've actually seen a really good improvement across much of the state recently, given the wetter storm track that we've been in. Now, there's been this perception out there that we've been a lot wetter than normal. Well, if we look at April, we were about 0.4 of an inch below average preliminarily, but we did have good amounts of rainfall that we did see the removal of D1 drought in eastern Iowa and the removal of that D0 or abnormally dry category across much of central Iowa. And that's great. We've been delayed in planting given soil temperatures were below that 50-degree threshold, along with these wetter stretches in April. But it's been beneficial in terms of getting more moisture into those subsoil profiles.
Right, and with that level of moisture, there's been a lot of people that are, we're getting close to when we really need to have the crop in the ground for planting season. Around mid-May is really kind of the cutoff for maximum yields. And a lot of people are worried of, did we get too much rain? Is it going to be able to dry out quick enough to where we get in the ground? And we're looking at some pretty nice temperatures over the next week. So is it looking promising there that we could see that, dry enough to where we could get in the ground without having to mud in crops?
Absolutely. So we look at the temperature outlooks for next week, the possibility of 80s and 90s, so tropical weather. That'll be very good for getting those soil temperatures up, but also evaporating some of that moisture out of the topsoil so we can get those planters out there and get rolling. So it looks like an excellent window in terms of getting out into the field. We needed this type of window, and we just happened to get it. So good luck for our farmers.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck. And we know that we can get a lot done in a short amount of time as soon as that weather starts to cooperate. And then, obviously just get in there and get the crops done. So let's talk a little bit maybe beyond just the next week. What's kind of the outlook of maybe trends we're seeing that could go really into planting season and as the crops grow?
Yep. So we saw an interesting flip in the May outlook. So we have an initial outlook that's issued in the middle of the month, and then a final outlook that's issued for the next month on the final day of April for May, for example. The initial outlook for May had a cold and dry signal. Now I wasn't certain that dry signal was correct. And at the final, on the final day of April, with those final outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center, we did see a flip to that wet signal, that's what I was anticipating given the weather patterns that we were in. So if we look at the seasonal outlooks, May, June, July, we do see an elevated signal for warmer temperatures and then a dry signal. Now, this is partially a function of the La Nina phase that we're in. We're actually going into year 3 of a La Nina. So last year we were in a double dip, and now we call this a triple stack La Nina. And in years in which we've seen a La Nina hang around from spring into summer. And as a reminder to our listeners and viewers, La Nina is a cold phase of what everybody knows as El Nino. This shifts thunderstorm activity further west in the Pacific Basin, and that impacts where the jet stream and storm track sets up over the United States. So in the few years that we've seen since 1950 in a La Nina hanging around into summertime, we do see modeling that shows a drier signal, and that's what we see in those seasonal outlooks. So the moisture that we're banking now, or that we have banked over the recent term, will do good work in terms of if we do get into a dry signal, getting into later June and July when the crop is starting to mature and when we need it the most. Luckily, last year we had a pretty dry signal as well, with drought conditions expanding. We got those $1 million rainfalls right when we needed the most during tasseling and pollination and moving forward. So we anticipate that there's a potential for a dry signal getting into summertime, but it's not set in stone. And given the wetter conditions that we've seen, we could see a flip in those outlooks as we move forward.
Right. And is there any potential for that La Nina to kind of end off and quit?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. The probabilities of La Nina hanging around into summer are 59%. So not very high, but still above 50%. And for that La Nina phase to hang around, the ocean and the atmosphere have to stay coupled together. If they decouple, even with a colder sea surface temperature anomaly, that would suggest La Nina in the Pacific. If the atmosphere decides to decouple from the oceanic behavior, then we could see a shift back towards ENSO neutral conditions. And that would give us a different flavor in those outlooks. We would basically fall back on climatology in recent conditions to give us a better idea. So I'm more confident on the elevated signal for warmer conditions getting into summertime, and we'll just have to see how that precipitation behavior behaves, or how that precipitation signal behaves, given that we don't have very many years in which La Nina has hung around into summer, but also a triple stack La Nina.
Right. And this is one of those years where, a lot of producers are really concerned about the weather lining up right and getting good crop conditions, because there's a lot of potential to fill in a lot of export gaps. The war in Ukraine, there's not crop coming from there. And a bunch of other countries are banning exports because they need to be able to feed their own countries. And we know with the U.S. that we always have a very large surplus. So what would the producers need to see from this weather in order to, I suppose, really feel confident about the crop conditions going forward?
Sure. Iowa farmers are the most resilient farmers on earth. When they see the window to plant, they get out and we get planted. So I'm confident in that. The weather, last season, as I mentioned, we were in drought conditions across much of the state, drier than what we expected, but the yields were actually phenomenal in terms of how dry we were. So we would like to see climatologically expected rainfalls as we move into May and June and July. May and June are the two wettest months of the year. But basically, the weather doesn't always work out, but we always find a way to get those yields up. And given the price of corn and beans, there's a possibility of very good results getting into the harvest time. So let's get planted, and we'll see what we do in terms of weather moving forward.
All right, Justin, so lots of great information today. If farmers are looking for resources to learn a little bit more and stay up to date on that, where can they go to find that information?
Give me a call, the Iowa Climatology Bureau, 515-281-8981. Send me an email, justin.glisan, Glisan, at iowaagriculture.gov. Or Google Iowa Climatology Bureau. It'll bring you to the IDAL's climatology site. We have all kinds of historical reports, current conditions, recent conditions, drought outlooks, soil temperatures, anything that you would ever want. But I'm here as a resource, so I'm always happy to chat with our farmers and producers.
All right, Justin. Well, it was great talking to you today, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Riley.
For more information on Iowa's weather patterns, visit iowaagriculture.gov. And that is it for this episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can also find our video content and previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget our free Twice Daily Market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Dustin Hoffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.